Hi, hello. Welcome to another episode of Isaiah's Newsstand. It's your host, Isaiah Edwards. The date is November the 10th, 2023. Hopefully this episode finds you well, in good spirits and high hopes. As for me, I'm doing pretty good. Today was a really good day. Overall, nothing crazy, wild, happened or anything like that, but, very standard issue day, and that was very nice for me. I'll totally take it. Let's see here. Nothing spectacular to really talk about in the food corner. So, yeah, I think we'll just go ahead and do the startup, do our thing, and then we will get into some news coverage. Keep it nice and breezy on this Friday. Also, happy Friday. Hopefully you're listening to this on Friday. You're sharing the same energy as I am, but if not, hopefully you're taking it with you on whatever day you're listening. Oh, yeah. Also, sorry in advance if you're hearing any background music. My neighbors are, having a little Friday of their own. Get nugget. All right. Now, our first story is actually a bit of old news. I missed the story last week, but I had caught like an update of it while I was listening to the British broadcast service center, whatever, BBC. I was listening to BBC global news, and they initially had told me about Prince Charles making a visit to Kenya, but like in this preparation of it, they were like evacuating this whole tribe, and I was like, what is happening? So I wanted to dig into that, talk about that. From Survival, Kenya government illegally evicts Ojek from their ancestral forests during King Charles state visit. In the midst of King Charles' state visit to Kenya, local authorities have begun brutal evictions of the Ojek from their homes in the Mau Forest. Rangers from the Kenyan Forestry Service and Kenyan Wildlife Service, in collaboration with the Kenyan police, are illegally evicting up to 700 people from their homes in the name of conservation, which is just so fucking gross. Like, in the name of like protecting the environment, you are displacing a whole group of people. Like, no, it's crazy that you can just smack that phrase on there and just do that shit like in broad daylight. That's in fucking insane to me. But yeah, footage and images show the Ajak homes destroyed, some even burned to the ground. It has been reported that rangers are forcing some Ajak people to tear down their homes themselves in an attempt to claim that their communities are leaving voluntarily, which is just so sad that this is something that is happening not just here, but in so many places. I've literally been covering shit like this throughout the past, like, fucking month. It's insane. It's gross. It's so fucking disturbing that, like, us as society in 2023 are just at the same kind of, like, colonialism, like the colonial style tactics, like, to just try to get what you want for just stupid shit. Essentially, in this situation, it's over carbon credits. But the Ajax People's Development Program has described the evictions as a humanitarian crisis. Ajax elders have tried to engage with government bodies to stop evictions, but to no avail. Some claim that the evictions are related to carbon credits, to the carbon credits market that Kenya's government has been promoting during the recent Africa Climate Summit in 2023. But now, in 2017 and then also 2022, the African Court of Human and People's Rights, or the ACHPR, upheld the Ajax land rights in the Mau Forest. Now, the government said, okay, yeah, we'll do better, and then just proceeded to just do the same fucking shit. And I'm really just kind of summarizing this shit down just in terms of like the recent shit, but I mean, we're talking not just evictions, but even like killing people. You know what I mean? Like, this is insane. Like, it just doesn't make sense. It never adds up. All because you want to like turn the shit into a game reserve, or you're doing it for the name of conservation, what have you. And it's like, No, people were living here, and especially in the situation with this other tribe, they were already doing. They're a hunting gathering tribe. They're already helping cultivate, keep numbers at a good, healthy balance. Like they are not disrupting anything. But that is more or less the excuse that the Kenyan government is trying to use to bully these people out of their land that is rightfully theirs. So I really wanted to highlight that shit, and I didn't want to let it fall through the cracks. So I know it's like, a bit behind, but still very relevant. The next story from The Economist. Portugal's prime minister resigns over corruption scandal. Center-left parties in Europe have had a rough time in recent years, but Portugal has been an exception. Antonio Costa, the socialist prime minister, has been in power since 2015, first leading a coalition including parties from far left and later a minority government. Portugal's economy, among the best performing in Europe, is expected to finish this year with a reasonably solid 2% growth. In an election in 2022, Mr. Costa defined expectations by winning an absolute majority for his party in parliament. So, I mean, this guy is already peaking, but is still somehow on the rise. And, I mean, at least he was up until this moment. But on November 7th, his good fortune came to an abrupt end. He resigned following a police raid on his residence, part of an investigation into corruption scandals over lithium mines and a green hydrogen project. Mr. Costa's chief of staff and a close advisor were detained, and as was the socialist mayor of Sines, a port city south of Lisbon, and 2 executives from a data center company. Prosecutors announced that the Minister of Environment and Climate and the Minister of Infrastructure have been named as defendants, and that Mr. Costa, too, is under investigation. The Prime Minister denied having done anything illegal and said he had a clear conscience. Now, in these situations, it's always very unfortunate. I'm always, rooting for, liberal leadership. I think that is, kind of the best case scenario that you can ask for. But granted, when you're touching corruption, that fucks up the whole fucking thing. It makes literally things impossible to work and function the way they should. You're just as bad as the other party. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what you're espousing as your beliefs if you are doing that. But at the same time, I always try to, keep open eyes and ears on this shit. I remember when I covered Brazil, when we were talking about Bolsonaro and Silva, that he was, had been under a corruption charge and that shit had been lifted, and then he was able to, take office. But then, I learned a little bit more details along the way, and it turned out that it was a corrupt right-wing government and people that were trying to queue up this kind of investigation, and that's what kind of put Silva in that situation in the fucking first place. So that makes things suspect off the rip. But in this situation, I'm looking at it, it's like, oh no, this might just be, good old-fashioned ho-hum corruption. You know what I mean? These guys saw an opportunity to make some money for themselves, enrich themselves, while still having an elevated position and potentially elevating it in the future, and they all participated in it and, potentially just helped themselves to the pie that is for the people. In terms of the lithium mines and things like that, it definitely makes me feel icky, just because of the situation of this is tied to electric vehicles, EVs, and that's supposed to be the big green initiative, right? But then I hear and listen to these stories about what goes on in lithium mines, that whole fucking thing, and how that in and of itself is a resource that we are mining and is also finite. So I don't know. It's definitely a head scratcher. That's a whole other fucking, issue episode thing. But yeah, definitely a bummer that Costa did this. Definitely, in the pursuit of getting the bag, he, definitely tripped on his own dick here, it feels like, looks like. Because like I said, he definitely had more things that he could have done even just post being prime minister. And now it's like, nah, man, you might be going to jail. So that's no good. No bueno. Anyway. Let's move on to the next beat. We are going to the States. From Reuters, U.S. Supreme Court leans towards allowing domestic violence gun curbs. Let's see here. The U.S. Supreme Court justices on Tuesday appeared inclined to uphold the legality of federal law that makes it a crime for people under domestic violence restraining orders to have guns in the latest major case to test the willingness of its conservative majority to further expand gun rights. Now, I kind of want to start off with, like, obviously the plaintiff here, who's, brought this case all the way up. The case involves Zachary Ramey, a Texas man who pleaded guilty to illegally possessing guns in violation of this law while subject to a restraining order for assaulting his girlfriend in a parking lot and later threatening to shoot her. Police found guns while searching his residence in connection with at least 5 shootings. So this man has been known to pop off a history of violence. Like, he settles his scores by like, we got a little Facebook beef or whatever, homie. Okay, cool. I will be on the street popping off on your street. That's obviously not good. This is a clear and present danger we're fucking talking about. This man shouldn't have a firearm, period, let alone with the domestic violence fucking charge on there or not. But at the end of the day, somehow this man's case, he's appealed. I think with the Fifth Circuit court in New Orleans, they were like conservative enough to kind of look at it again. And they said, well, if we're talking about the Constitution, there wasn't even a domestic violence. Like, so why were like domestic abuse or whatever? Like, maybe we should be looking at this a little bit different. So they appealed it, and then it went up to the Supreme Court. So that's more or less where we're at with it. Now, I initially heard this. I always recall that this is a 6-3, supermajority for, conservatives. So obviously very worried. You read Reuters and it's like, oh man, this looks pretty bleak. Now I was listening to the New York Times, which, I mean, hey, that sometimes the New York Times is just as bad as the New York Post, if you know what I fucking mean. But they kind of went into a little bit more of the details of it, and it definitely seems that, like, yeah, you have Clarence Thomas and then Samuel Alito, who seem like most keen to maybe say, yeah, let's like stick to the old Constitution back when we were doing ye old whatever the fuck. And like that makes sense. That kind of does line up. Maybe we should stick to that. And then you have Roberts, who's more moderate, who's talking about, well, we use the word responsible here. How does that really apply? And he like kind of makes an argument like, well, am I being irresponsible if I don't take out my garbage in the morning? And the prosecution essentially was like, look, even according to your guys' own standard, responsible is a word that is used, and what we're talking about here. We're talking about, like, are you representing a danger to society? Yada. I'm definitely doing hard paraphrasing here. But it does seem that overall, if you're including the minority here, plus with just the moderates, that the moderate conservatives, whatever the fuck that is, it seems like the consensus is this is a bad egg. No one wants to do any major upheaval off of a case like Zachary Ramey's, like this dude, or Zachy Ramey's. Like, no one wants this. No, this is too hot of a fucking potato. But I think at the same time, they want to leave things open enough so that when a clear and easy speed ball just kind of rolls up the fucking alley, they can take that and then maybe, make better gun rights for gun owners. Because at the end of the day, that's what the yee-yees want. They want to have their guns, brother. It's my goddamn right. Let me carry my second dick wherever I fucking want. I want it in a Panera and I want it there right now. God damn it. So, they want to make sure that is allowed. That's still in play. But yeah, you have Ketanji Brown Jackson being like, why the fuck is this even up here? Like, this is crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to at least give some coverage on that. I'm curious to see how it is going to go. I hope that the latter consensus plays out here, and that like you don't okay domestic violence and having a gun. I don't know. I don't know if I'd run into anyone who would feel otherwise here on that. I feel like that just would give me the ick personally. Like, look, I get it. You want to have your gun and do that. It's a right, but it's like one of those things where this goes hand in hand, that like if you have someone who is a violent offender and you give them a gun, well, guess what? You are now upping the body count. Like, that is going to happen. And, when you have a situation where people are like, your life is threatened, you are definitely making this a death sentence, I feel like, if you okay that kind of shit. So yeah, I'm definitely rooting against Raimi getting his way here, and hopefully he comes out empty-handed on this. But yeah, I just wanted to cover that. I got to talk about my Skoda shit when it pops up, even though I've been trying to like not cover it too much unless it's like a big highlight like this one. Whew. Okay, we have one more thing to cover before I let you go, before I let you into the wind. But you know what that means. I'm gonna take my break. Ooh. All right. Last story comes from the Hill. Manchin's retirement, a buzzkill for Senate Democrats' 2024 hopes. Oh, boo fucking who. I for one, am kind of a little bit excited about this fucking news. But West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, houseboat extraordinaire, on Thursday made official what his colleagues had privately suspected for months, that he won't be returning to Washington as senator in 2025, putting Democrats on an uphill path to keeping their Senate majority in next year's election. I mean, that shit was already fucking dicey as is. Essentially, they're on a 51-50 majority, though Kyrsten Sinema, I did want to mention because I don't think I've really talked about this on the pod, has gone hella full on 100% rogue, curtsying, doing all her own shit, but she's doing it on her own. She is independent. Sure, man, you're the most centered based, I don't know, non-binary lady in the room. I don't fucking know. I dislike all these people, man. But yeah, they say like, yeah, we have 51 to the 50 and we need Manchin to run again. We need him to, because in Virginia, it's already pretty red. And like, if Manchin steps down, there's just not going to be anyone strong enough to beat a Republican come 2024. So sure, yeah, whatever. If you ask me, I've done coverage on this shit before. Manchin has been a fucking useless fucking cog in the machine, man. Like literally saying like, oh, like, I mean, hell, if you're gonna, if the Democrats are gonna keep pushing me, I'll just switch sides and go Republican. So it's like why are people hanging their hats on this man? Like, that's crazy to me in the fucking first place. He's also hinted that he wants to kind of like tour and feel out the country, for the sense of like, he wants to see if maybe there's a middle of the road run that potentially could happen for 2024, like presidential campaign. He's been talking that shit for like, I feel like a couple months now. And I'm like, don't you fucking do it. Don't you fucking try. But there have been a few people who've been murmuring, talking about maybe doing like a Green Party thing. I don't know, man. But granted, I will say, especially, I feel like with the events lately, talking about, shit going on with Israel and Palestine right now, it is very understandable why you just have no faith in leadership. Like, how can I believe in a Democrat right now? It's so fucking hard. So while, we have this coverage like, oh man, should we be sweating this right now? Like, should we be concerned? Should we be like maybe even like parlaying for Joe Manchin to stay? Please reconsider, Joe. Like, no, get the fuck out. Go back to your houseboat, and like, I hope it fucking sinks. I'm just not into this guy. I'm so over it. I'm so over the Biden administration. It's so exhausting. It's so fucking tiring. But at the end of the day, obviously you have the thing of like, well, what are your options? Do you give the floor back to Republicans to, keep running it and potentially quote unquote run it worse? Which, I think I still, my heart, my nerves want to agree with that sentiment. But, I've seen Donald Trump in power. I've seen Joe Biden in power. I've seen, Republican majorities. I've seen Democratic majorities. They don't do the shit that they say that they're going to do for us. They never wind up fucking helping us. They only wind up helping themselves. They only try to maintain their fucking seats until like, oh, well, maybe Joe can't win his seat next year and maybe he's tired. Maybe he just wants to, fucking count his fucking oil baron money or drug money from his little family. And I mean big pharma money, obviously. The drugs that you can legally sell all the time, whenever you want. But yeah, I'm obviously doing a little bit of summarizing here. They would go really long here on this Hill article. But if you want to read that, it's definitely there and available for you. But yeah, that's the episode. I'll leave it there for the day. Let's see here. I do have to shill. Patreon.com/Isaiah News. If you'd like to become a newsie, you can. Excuse me. With your donation, you do get the shout out at the top of the month. I say your name on the podcast, plug a project, things like that. Let's see. Free ways to hit me up. IsaiahNews1@gmail.com. And then I'm on all the socials that you're probably on. Feel free to follow me or the podcast there. Say what's up. Hi, hello. Hey, what's up? Hello. Also, please follow, subscribe. Yeah, subscribe. That's the word to the YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, the bell, all those whistles and things. And hopefully, if you're listening on something else like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, you hit the stars, leave a little cute comment because I think you can do that nowadays. It's totally a thing. So, yeah, thanks so much. Thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for being a friend. And hopefully I see you soon for some more good news. I love ya. Bye-bye. Mwah.